There are two kinds of people in this world. The people who fail to do what they know they should, and those who keep doing things they know they shouldn't. Guess what? You're both. Hi, I'm your host, life and business coach, Marcy Barker, aka your loving kick in the pants. In this podcast, I'll teach you the 6 steps of my accountability code that will help you wake up with clarity and show up with aligned action steps that make follow through easy and peaceful. All right, let's jump in.
Hello, my beautiful people. I am here with my good friend, Naomi Haigh, and I'm so excited for this episode because Naomi and I have known each other for a long time. We're very similar in our approach of helping people get stuff done. So I'm super excited to have Naomi here. I'm going to read her bio so you know exactly what she does. Naomi Haigh is a psychic medium and intuition coach. She is also the host of the Modern Psychic podcast, which I was on. A podcast that explores what being a psychic means in today's world, providing multiple ways you can discover and incorporate your own psychic abilities into your everyday lives and businesses. Naomi graduated from USU with an MBA and master's in human resources, is married, and has 2 amazing sons. Naomi, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Marcy. I'm really excited to be here.
I told the audience, the listeners, that they really ought to just go listen to your podcast first. I was her first guest. I was so excited. She trusted me to help her get her podcast going. And we had a really fantastic conversation. And so I'm hoping that listeners can listen to Naomi's podcast and mine, and you can see the differences in what we do, but the vast majority or similarities in, helping people get the thing done. So Naomi, some of my listeners might be like, what? Marcy's having a psychic on her podcast? Because you know me, I'm not too hippie. And I try to not stay away from it, but I'm very logical and very grounded. And I know that sometimes people are not familiar with how their intuition works, or they might not even be familiar with, can I have some sort of psychic abilities? So let's dive into that first. What's the definition of psychic, or what would make you label something as psychic?
So I think that all of us are psychic in some way or some form, and it's just a matter of how much you're opening yourself up to it. So intuition, that's, I feel like, a form of psychic abilities when we can connect to other people, which a lot of people now are throwing out the word empath. Oh, I'm an empath. I can feel other people's whatever. Or sometimes I just know that something, someone's going through something, and that is psychic abilities. Like, you are a psychic. So however you want to label it, that's why I created my podcast, was because it's redefining what it means to be a psychic. When we think of a psychic, we think of old school fortune tellers, and all they were doing was reading people's energies. They were just feeling into things and being open and getting out of their heads and getting into what was just intuitively coming to them. And they would foretell things, or they would, say, hey, I feel like you're going through this right now. And people would be like, how did you know? Are you reading my mind? And it's like, no, it's just really getting out of your head and getting into your other senses, enough to be able to get more information than what is in your logical mind. So that's what I feel like the definition of a psychic is. And yeah, it's just a matter of, if you feel like you're not a psychic, then it's probably because you're just operating way too much in your head, and you're just, fully saying, if it doesn't come from my brain, then it's not true, or I don't believe it. But in some sense or another, you've had different experiences, I'm sure, of using your psychic abilities. And so just call a duck, right?
Like that, because people are going to define different abilities, different experiences in a different way, obviously in a way that's familiar to them. And yes, it was on your podcast that I told the story of how I didn't want to be an empath. I went to a retreat and everybody was taking this quiz of like, are you an empath? And I was like, I understand what it means to be an empath, but am I supposed to want to be an empath? And, last weekend at a retreat, there was a lot of energy being stirred up in the air, a lot of people, getting foot zones, doing energy work, and you could feel it. And somebody kind of had a blow up and didn't know what to do with all of the energy that they were experiencing. They didn't know how to label it. And when I was in the situation, I kind of was like the logical part of like, I can see something is happening here, but I am not going to dive into it. I'm not going to start swimming in the energy. But I feel like learning from you and other people has helped me recognize that there is something there, and we can choose to step into it, and we can choose to avoid it, and we can choose to take it one step at a time. So with this person that kind of had a blow up, I followed up with her and, wanted to see if she was okay. I had to apologize for a part that I was in it, because, you just never know what's going to trigger somebody. And I asked her, I said, do you have somebody that you can work through these things with? Because listeners, it's not me. Like, I am the kind of person that they're like, how did you know that about me? I'm like, I checked your Facebook page and that's where it was.
Hey listeners, the message of waking up and showing up is yours for the taking. In fact, it's free. I've recorded my entire audiobook and I'd love for you to consume it between episodes. Head to marcybarker.com to get instant access to the accountability code Wake Up and Show Up. All right, let's jump back in.
Naomi, what would you say to the people who feel an inkling of like, there's something there, but I don't have anybody in my space that would label it this way, or they might even make fun of it, or they might say, you're crazy, or it's all in your head, or it's not really how it is. What do you say to those people who want to discover how to label and define the things that they're feeling?
I would definitely tell them to get out of their ego, and we're everywhere. And I say we, the people that are calling themselves psychic, the people that are calling themselves energy workers or healers, in some form. And really, we've just claimed the label and said, you know what, this is, I can't call it anything else. Like, a psychic is a psychic, and when it boils down to it, this is what I am. And it took me a long time to actually accept that label for myself, just because I was a lot like you, where it's like, I know I can't be that I've worked too hard to be credible and to have people like take me seriously. And so calling myself a psychic is just going the complete opposite direction, right? I'm putting myself in a room of unknowns, in a room of maybe weirdos. I don't know what all they're into, and I had to work on that. And when I did finally start reaching out to other people to ask them for help, because I was doing the same thing, I was feeling things and I was experiencing things, and I was like, okay, what is going on here? Luckily, I had someone, as I was going through that, I had someone close to me that was like walking me through it and saying, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. My first mentor that did that, I seeked her out for Reiki. And I think that if I would have just had something happen to me where, like, what you're talking about with this lady, where something just, exploded and I was like, what's happening? And nobody was around to help me. I just suggest seeking them out, like seeking out somebody that speaks a different language than the people that are around you, that you're like, okay, they don't even know me, so there's a difference between a stranger's judgment and somebody, that you love, is judging you. And so, a stranger can hold a different space for you to, not feel as judged, even though it might be a little more uncomfortable because you don't know them. But at the same time, it's more comfortable because you don't know them, because again, there's that space of, well, I don't know you, and so I can't really judge you fully. Whereas if someone, in your family or, someone that's close to you is like, okay, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? How are you? What have you been talking about? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like, do you need to go to the doctor? Do you need to talk to a psychiatrist? And so, yeah, I would just say to bite the bullet and seek it out. Like starting with the lady that, you were talking about, if she was getting some work done, if she was talking, she was getting a massage and then had, emotional trigger happen to, and a lot of energy moving and coming through, then maybe continue going to a massage therapist or asking that massage therapist, hey, how can I work through this? Because obviously they're the ones that helped open it up. They held the space enough to open it up. And so I say, go back to the source of where you first felt it starting. And because there is a reason why it was opened up in some way. Either I was talking to someone that I just met and all these emotions started pouring out, then go back and talk to that person because they are obviously holding the space for you to feel comfortable enough to let that move. So go back to that person and say, hey, that conversation we just had, or that massage I just had, or that foot zone I just had, open some things up. And now I'm feeling all kinds of crazy stuff and I don't know where to go. Talk to them because they've 100% believe that they already know what you can start doing, because we as energy workers, we're holding the space for that to actually happen. We're holding the space for people to open up. We're holding the space for people to move things they haven't moved in a long time. That is literally what energy work does. And so we know that there's, things that will come up, and we also know how we can guide you through that. And if we don't know, we definitely have a network of people that we know because we all find each other, So, yep.
And there is a chance that this person will listen to this podcast. And as you talk about that, I'm like, that's scary. It's scary to go back to the place where you were triggered or caught off guard or become aware of something that needs to be addressed. So if anybody listening can relate to the friend that we talked about, just know that there are people out there that are safe. Just like Naomi said, that's why things came out, is because there was a safe place for it to go. As an admin team with this retreat, we talked about let's just not have all the energy stuff in this retreat, because things came up, but we weren't prepared to keep that container because it wasn't the purpose of why we were all together. So it was very eye-opening to see just how important it is to hold that space. But my favorite part is be willing to do something with it, because we're going to keep getting those nudges. It's going to keep happening. And if it's not addressed, then it's going to catch you off guard, and it's going to happen in places or situations where it's not welcomed, So I really like that you said that. Go back to the place or person where it became manifested, because that's really empowering. It also reminds me when I got into therapy that I was like, I can tell this lady anything and she has to keep it safe. And the ability to be free in that way was obviously something I needed, something everybody needs. So a fun question, I guess. What's the difference between what you do and therapy, let's say?
A lot of times I am like a therapist. And I know that therapists hate when people say, well, I'm practically like a therapist, especially coaches, yeah, like when coaches are saying, well, I'm pretty much like a therapist and a coach. And then therapists are like, oh, don't do that. But anyway, whatever. So because I've done the same thing, like I've helped people open things up, and then they start experiencing, an overflow of emotions, or they experience spiritual gifts that they never knew that they had, and they're like, oh, why am I hearing things, why am I feeling this, why did this just happen, like why am I seeing colors now, and like strange places, and what is going on, and walking them through that step by step. I feel like like it's all about intention. I feel like a therapist has a certain intention on what they're trying to work through with their clients. Psychics, energy workers, coaches, we all have a certain intention on what we're trying to help people through. And so it's just, I believe that that's, pretty much the difference. And luckily, I guess for me anyway, I like that I don't have all the restrictions of a therapist. I don't have to walk the line and walk the red tape, and I can just be completely blunt and open when I'm feeling into people's, things that they're presenting to me. They're saying, hey, I'm having problems in my relationship and I don't know what to do. I can tap right in and I can literally see what's going on, instead of being careful and trying to tread lightly around or asking them open-ended questions. I can just go in and be like, well, your guys' communication is off and you keep shutting him down and he keeps reverting to whatever it was, like he closes down, and then like, why do you keep doing that? I can hit him straight in the head, with it, rather than trying to skirt around and like need it out of them, in some kind of form. I'm just like, well, this is what I see, this is what you're doing, like, why are you doing it? And then they're like, oh my gosh, like that's so true, how did you know that? I'm like, well, like I see it, or I get told, like when I'm as a psychic and as a medium, mediumship is when I connect to people's guides, I connect to people's past loved ones, and I can hear what they're saying to me to tell them I'm a medium. I'm the in between, between spiritual and real life, and so I'm giving messages. And so sometimes I'll literally get told, they're lying to you, or they're lying to themselves, or they're lying to their partners, or they're cheating on their partners. And I'm like, well, I just got told this. And they're like, oh, how did you know that? And I'm like, well, because I got told it. Like, that's how I know. And so are you going to do something about it? Now, what are you going to do about it? Now that I brought it out in the open, like, you came to me, so you gave me permission to do that. So why now? Let's work on what's next. Why were you doing that? Why is this happening? And what do you want to do next with it? And if they're like, well, I really want to make it work, then I can get told, no, they don't. And I'm like, no, you don't. And they're like, I really don't. I'm like, okay. So, I have a fast track to, I guess, therapy, because, it's just literally, I can see it, I can tap right into it, or I can hear, and I literally get told they're giving you a bunch of bullshit. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah. Like, and so I'll call them out on it. And so I can do that. Therapists probably can't, legally do that.
I like that you said the intention, because that really does make all the difference. I think about 2 points here. The first one is that I had a client discontinue working with me because I was also working with somebody who did energy work. And so she saw me as a coach of you're helping people aid in dark things, or things other than just Jesus Christ. And I was like, we can get into this and I can explain how I believe blah, 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 blah. So I just was really surprised that I was being denied for not loving Jesus enough. And I'm like, that's kind of the opposite. Usually people are like, you're too much of a Jesus lover. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, why would somebody be turned off to this, or what is the fear there, or, what is the thing that maybe they're pushing away. And I chose to give up the situation when I asked them about the music they listened to. I said, I was scared I was going to offend you by my drop it low, music. And she's like, no, music doesn't bother me. And I was like, okay, I this kind of doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what's okay, what's not. So it was the intention is what it all came back to. The second point is my therapist, the very first time I got on a call with her, I said, is there homework? Like, what do I need to do after each call? And she was like, oh, sweetie, there's no homework. She's like, you don't need to do anything. And that was new for me. But I also was thinking, like, if I got on a call with Naomi, it's going to look a lot different than your therapist being like, you're doing great. Like, you are making progress.
Right. Yeah.
And I
Yeah, for
think
sure.
that when it comes to listeners, the feelings that you feel inside, you do need to be intentional about where you go with that information. Are you ready to dive deeper? Are you ready to do something about it? Are you finally ready to change courses, even though it's going to be really hard? And really, that's what your loving kick in the pants is. So I guess I should also be careful, because the more I tell you, you'll be like, I don't want to go to Marcy, or I don't want to go to Naomi, because it means opening up this new way of being. So
Right.
a question I had for you, which it might be stupid, but you know how a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm an empath, and it's kind of a buzzword, and everybody and their dog is an empath. How would you feel if that new word was psychic and everybody was like, I'm a psychic, I'm a psychic? What would be your opinion? What would you think about that?
I think that that's where everybody's starting to go to, like, because everyone's now opening up to empath, then it's just like, okay, I've noticed I can feel things that I feel like other people can't feel, and so it's really like, as soon as people start claiming that they're psychic, then it's just going to turn into, okay, what are your, like, I probably won't call myself a psychic anymore, because then it's like, well, I'm a human, and it's like, well, everyone else is a human, you know. And so I think I would love that, because I actually teach people how to tap into their intuition. I teach people how to embody their psychic abilities. And so that's where I feel like we're all going, collectively needing to go, wanting to go, opening up to go there, because that's just innately part of who we are, right? And so it's just claiming that and saying, yes, I can do that. And then I'll be like, cool, what can you do? Which is literally what I do in my classes. Like, when people come to me to figure out their own psychic abilities, they're not going to have the same things that I do. And for me, it's super cool to feel into and see what other people can do that I can't, or that I haven't quite tapped into yet. And I'm like, oh, wow, you can read auras. That's so awesome. And I see that you can, decipher the colors in each aura. So this means this means this. And they're like, yeah, but I didn't know what that was called, and I'm like, that's so cool. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that, but that's awesome that you can, and you can use that. And so then I get guidance on how to teach them how to use it. So even though I don't read auras, I can still teach people how to use their own gifts. And I feel like it's still going to be unique to everybody. Like, even if everyone calls themselves a psychic, we're all not going to be the same type of psychic. If you go to another psychic than me, you're going to have a different experience than if you come to me, because I bring my own personality. I bring my own intentions. I'm here to help people grow. I'm here to help people expand what they think about themselves. I'm here to do that. And so I'm more like a coach, and I also help people in their businesses do the same thing. Like, business has energy, and so if you're the energy in your business is not flowing the way you want it to, I can come in, see where it's stuck, and help you move that by also listening to your guide. Like, your guides tell me, oh, they have a personnel problem, people keep quitting, and I'm like, okay, what's going on over here? Let's look into that. And they're like, how did you know that? Well, because I got told it. So let's look at your business. And but other psychics might want to read your past lives. Other psychics might want to feel into, more about relationship stuff, more about, just making you feel overall good. Let me balance your chakras. Let me, help you feel into your energy more, your own energy, or whatever the case. I don't know what a lot of other psychics do, but, it's just it's whatever resonates with what you're looking for at the time and what your energy is. And so even with me and you, like, us going straight to the root of the problem, and we're like, no nonsense, this is it. What are you going to do about it? Let's give you a kick in the pants. Like, people that are drawn to that energy and that need that energy right now, they're going to come to us for that. They don't want the frills. They don't want to spend a lot of time. They don't need to have us coax things out of them because they're at that point where they're like, I'm ready to jump the cliff. Like, I'm ready to stop doing what I'm doing. I'm sick of my own bullshit and I'm ready to move on. Let's do something about it. And then they come to us and it's like, good, let's get there. Let's get right in. Let's target right there and let's see some growth now. Let's see you move, because I'm not here to sugarcoat things. You're not here to sugarcoat things, but we do it from our hearts. Just because we're blunt about it and, we're straightforward about it does not mean we don't have a heart, does not mean we're cold. It just means that this is the mission. We hear the mission, and this is what we're here to do for the people that are ready for the energy that we get, because we're holding that space to say, hey, I know that you're ready to make a change right now. So let's do this. You're fully capable. I'm holding space for you. I'm going to watch you. Let's go, and it'll resonate with that energy. So the people that are afraid of us, they're not ready. They want to have somebody else maybe hold their hand a little bit longer. They want to have somebody else be a little bit softer to them and kind of ease them into it. Totally fine. It ain't us, right?
Yeah. Well, I like that. And you bring up a couple of points. The first one is, I tell people the accountability code does not work unless you're honest. And there are a handful of times where we do pursue commitment items and a goal that people have set that perhaps they weren't quite honest about what they really wanted. And I like talking to you because that reminds me that one of our differences, because I don't know if I have the ability to be like, no, this is what you need to do. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm holding you accountable, but I don't ever want to cross the line of holding you accountable to what I want. So part of me is like, no, it needs to come out of their mouth, out of their brain to be like, no, this was your idea. This actually was your idea. And so I like that. And I just find it incredibly awesome when people are willing to pay for that, when they're willing to say, you know what, I'm not having success doing this on my own and I need help from somebody who I know that's their superpower. So the second thing is, where do you draw the line between people who want to learn more about themselves to apply to their own life and people who want to learn more to start coaching or to start helping other people? Because, just like in the coaching world, there's a lot of people who are trying to coach crap that they haven't figured out themselves. So I guess, do you have any advice or tips when it comes to hiring somebody that claims to have this other insight that can help elevate or accelerate somebody's results? What do they need to look for? What's your opinion or your advice?
I say to not only listen to the words, but listen to the way that the words make you feel, like in your heart, like on the inside, because their intention, if you can somehow figure out how to just connect to someone's intention, like, okay, I hear their words, I hear what they're saying. This seems like something that I'm interested in pursuing, and working with them on. Let me see if I can feel into, like, does it feel good to me? Like, does it really deep down feel like this is something for me? And so that's a part of, connecting to your own intuition and saying, hey, let me tap in and just let myself get quiet for a minute to really and get out of my brain, so I'm not clogged with all of the things that they just told me or all the promises that they just made. Like, do I deep down believe them? And can I feel that? Can I feel that I can trust them and that I believe what they're saying? And usually, if you're, just kind of on the fence and you're like, I don't know, that's your intuition telling you that there's maybe a misalignment somewhere, either. And then it's about figuring out, is it my fear that's stopping me, or is it their energy that's stopping me? So it's just pausing and taking a minute once you have followed someone for a while and you're like, yeah, I like what they're saying. It's just okay, if I'm on the fence with working with them, is it because I'm afraid? And then, like you said, get honest with yourself. Am I just afraid? Like,
Yeah.
does everything they say feel good to me? And I feel like I trust them. Yes, yes. Okay, then I think it's just because I'm afraid, but I keep getting drawn back to them. I keep getting drawn back to them for some reason. So even if you keep getting drawn back to somebody, that's a form of trust, right? That's a form of like, I feel called to them. I feel pulled to them. But if you come in and someone, that you just met is just like, okay, here's all the things that I can do for you. And you're just kind of like, well, that sounds great, but it's just a matter of taking some extra time and saying, but does it feel good? Does it feel like I trust where they're at? And there's even instances where we get drawn to someone for a lesson. It doesn't have to be, well, I'm drawn to them and I feel like I should sign up for their stuff or have a session with them because they're going to fix all my problems. Like, they may just hold up one little thing for you and that's all you got out of it, but that might be a very crucial thing to your next step. And so, always coming back to yourself, and like you said, holding yourself accountable. Okay, what do I want to get out of this? And do I feel like this person can help me? Not help me fix it, not solve all my problems, but help me get to where I'm trying to go, in some way, in some form, whether it's just one small thing or whether it's like a whole bunch of stuff that I can take and run with. Like, what is the deal?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's where it comes full circle, is the purpose of what you and I do is to help people learn that feeling within themselves, to say, what even is this life? What am I here for? What am I supposed to do? And I think it's a really beautiful thing. Just like you said, we might not hire somebody to solve all of our problems, because deep down we know that that's just impossible. We can't have anybody solve all of our problems, but yeah, we can definitely hire people and enlist people to help us figure out one thing at a time, while we strengthen our ability to listen to our intuition. And I think that's just so beautiful. And I've shared my quote a million times, but it totally resonates with the message here is: true happiness comes only when our spirits learn to control our bodies, training them to be governed by the laws of God. And if I could sum up accountability, I mean, that's what I try to do, is you got to follow through with the things that you know are there for a reason. And so I love what you do. I've been a fan ever since I met you. How did we become
Thank you.
connected? I can't remember. Was it through Lady Bosses or was it way before then?
I think it was through Lady Bosses. Yeah, I think I showed up to an event and we just talked a little bit, and then just showed up to a couple other events, and so I think it was Lady Bosses.
Yeah, and listeners, I purchased some eye pillows. You make also, what do you call them? Yoga pillows, sitting pillows? What do you call them?
Meditation pillows, yoga bolsters, and then eye pillows. So, yep.
Zen. I am a fan. I remember I got eye pillows for everybody at my retreat, and I kind of dumped them on the table, and I was like, "Hey, pick which one you want." And people went crazy. I just was not expecting that. They wanted what they wanted. I was like, that was so cool. Maybe I should have done this a little bit more organized way. But as we finish up, what would you say is the message that you want people to leave with? Because I told you before the podcast, I want people to listen to this and be like, what am I going to go and do now? How can I apply my own loving kick in the pants right now? So what advice or tip would you have that we can leave my listeners with?
I would say that if you are somebody that's motivated by growth, if you're feeling stagnant in any way and you're just like, something's got to change, first of all, just know that, and it's, cliche, but it has to start with you. Like, you're the only one that can change anything. I can help you validate things and, bring things to the surface and see things that you might not have been, wanting to admit, or maybe it was a blind spot, and Marcy can do the same and, show you your blind spots. But in the end, you're the one that can create that. And so I would say, when you're looking for someone to hold space for that growth, like I said before, just make sure that it's somebody that you feel comfortable with, somebody that you feel like can hold the right space for you. So get clear on what you're looking for. Do I want someone that's going to ease into it and not just, like be a drill sergeant, or tell me that their program's the only way to go and they can't do it any other way? Like, are they going to limit you? Then maybe that's not the right choice for you. If that's not your intention. If your intention is to grow, then you don't want to feel limited. So finding somebody that can hold space for growth and for empowerment, for you, for them to show you that you are the one that is able to do the growth, that you are the one that is able to make the changes in your life that you want to make, and someone that's willing to hold that space for you to figure out how to do that for yourself, so that it's sustainable, so that you don't have to, continue to keep searching for the right answer or the best answer or the right program or, like anything like that. It could just be a maintenance thing after that. It could just be, hey, I need you to look at something for me. I got stuck, like what I did with Marcy like a month ago. Like I was stuck in my own stuff, and I was like, okay, because it's easier to help other people with their stuff than it is with our own, right? And we can't see our blind spots because that's why they're blind spots. And so I reached out to Marcy and I was like, hey, I just need an hour. Like, do you just do, an hour session? And at the time she did. And so I was like, okay, here's all the things. Here's what I got. What do you see that I'm not seeing? And I love to be that person for other people too. Is like, that's, I think why my psychic gifts opened was because I wanted to see what other people couldn't see. I wanted to see what I couldn't see. And so it's just a different approach. But yeah, that's what I would suggest, is finding someone that can hold the space for you to figure out how you can grow for yourself and continue to grow for yourself, so that you can gain confidence in knowing that I am here for a reason. I am in my life for a reason. It's to have these experiences. It's to create these things for myself and for the people that I love. And I have support. I have people that I can reach out to for support when I get stuck, or when I don't see things that, are maybe in my blind spot, or, a pattern that I'm repeating, but I don't know why I'm repeating it. Like, then have somebody that I can trust to help me see that, so that I can keep growing and keep moving forward.
Yes, I love that. I could listen to this kind of stuff all day. In fact, that's what I do. I feel like I do that. I'm like, listen and act. Listen and act. What is that? Wake up and show up. So
what is that again? Yeah.
Show up sounds familiar. So yeah, I appreciate you being here to share your wisdom. I appreciate you as a friend and a fellow coach and a fellow psychic, because
yeah, there you go.
I'll use that term selectively for now, but I'm grateful to have you in my life. So thank you so much, Naomi.
Thank you.
Hey friends, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. If you got any value out of this episode, I would love for you to drop me a review or share with a friend what you learned. All right, I'll see you next Wednesday for Your Loving Kick in the Pants.